This week at Starbase, Booster 15's construction winds down ahead of its upcoming test campaign, with construction of Ship 35 continuing in Mega Bay 2. Crews stay busy at the launch site, building out the infrastructure needed to support 2 launch pads. Demolition of the concrete wall around Starbase continued on Friday, as work progresses to reconfigure the launch complex to support the new launch pads. Additional racks of high-pressure gas storage cylinders were installed for the launch pad's deluge system. The booster load spreader was picked up by the Mega Bay 1 bridge crane, while the booster test and transport stand was brought in, marking a big step forward in launch pad assembly. Construction also began on the Chopstick support stand and assembly jig hardware, structures that will support the tower's arms and carriage components while the system is assembled. With initial assembly work wrapping up on Booster 15, the booster thrust simulator and transport stand were brought into Mega Bay 1. Booster 15 was then lifted off its work stand and loaded onto the transport stand ahead of its trip to the Massey outpost. Booster 15 emerged from the bay in the evening, pulling out into the ring yard, turning around, and entering Highway 4 for the journey to Massey. Demolition of the wall continued on Saturday, with the south side being broken down and excavators with hydraulic breakers working on the north wall. The crossbeam for the Chopstick support and assembly jig was rigged up and repositioned at the launch site, with additional columns and rigging being installed before the crossbeam was ready. Workers used a telehandler to add and reposition a few more lengths of fencing ahead of the demolition. The empty ship static fire stand was brought out of the build site and headed up Highway 4 to join Booster 15 at the Massey outpost. A crew with a welder or plasma cutter was at work beneath the level of Tower 1 ship quick disconnect arm. Sunday saw the demolition of the wall near the D1 gate guard shack, with the shack itself also demolished and excavators quickly cleaning up the debris. A hot stage adapter was brought out of Star Factory and taken to the staging area outside Mega Bay 1. A workstand platform was also brought out and staged in front of Mega Bay 2. Back at the launch site, the second set of support columns were added for the Chopstick assembly jig. Meanwhile, the bridge crane inside Mega Bay 2 picked up the new work platform for installation. With the column pieces in place, guy wires were set up and tensioned to keep them steady. Caps were also added to the tops of the columns to evenly spread the load and hold the crossbeam in place. This was followed by the installation of the crossbeam on the top of the columns. Once the Chopstick-specific support fixtures are in place, workers can begin assembling the Chopsticks. A concrete pump truck arrived in the evening, joining another truck already on site. The first pump set up around a large foundation pad near the commodity trench in D2 gate, where it began placing concrete. The second truck began setting up next to the first, around midnight into Monday morning. At the build site, the hot stage adapter was brought inside Mega Bay 1 for installation on Booster 15. A plastic-wrapped starship flap was delivered to the build site and staged outside of Mega Bay 2. After 10 hours of continuous placement, the first truck wrapped up its pour and began to pack up for departure. The second truck finished its work about an hour later and headed out of the launch site, with large areas left to fill. The flap delivered to the build site was unloaded from the truck and taken into Star Factory. Crews worked over the poured areas, screening and floating the concrete to create a smoothly finished surface. 2 SPMT units drove into the build site's main gate and headed through the yard between the bays on their way to the rocket garden. Since all remaining space inside the forms was within easy reach of the cement truck's discharge chute, the pour resumed and was finished in just over an hour, with the cement masons keeping up with the placement. Back up Highway 4, a second starship flap wrapped in plastic was delivered to the build site. The flat outer edges indicated that the flap didn't yet have its protective heat shield tiles. Several concrete embed plates were also delivered to the launch site. These steel plates are installed with studs embedded in the concrete, while the flat steel provides a surface for welding. Workers brought the booster pressurization pipe installation jig into Mega Bay 1 to end the day. Workers resumed on Thursday with a Block 2 ship lifter being brought out of Sanchez and taken into Mega Bay 2, where it was hooked up to the overhead crane. The empty support stand was sent back to Sanchez. The installation jig for Starship Starlink's satellite PES dispenser system was also brought into Mega Bay 2. Starship 35's nose and payload section moved through the glass-walled halls of Star Factory and headed outside, where it was staged outside Mega Bay 2. As always, a lot of equipment was moved around at Starbase, with 2 different ring stands being moved to new locations, while a Block 2 ship lifter was centered over the middle workstation in Mega Bay 2. This week at the Cape, Booster 1090 was offloaded from Just Read the Instructions to make its first visit to the docks. Booster 1085 wrapped up its stay at the docks a few hours later and was laid flat for the return to Roberts Road, freeing up the dockside stand for Booster 1090. Signet Warhorse 3 towed Just Read the Instructions back out to sea a few hours later, ready to support the Starlink Group 12-2 mission. Doug joined Just Read the Instructions in support of the Starlink mission on Saturday morning. Support ship Megan returned to port with the CRS-31 Cargo Dragon, following its 41-day stay at the International Space Station. Falcon 9 Booster 1080 was rolled out to launch Complex 39A on Sunday, then slowly raised upright about 13 hours before liftoff. The Starlink Group 12-2 mission lifted off early on Monday morning, carrying 21 Starlink satellites into orbit. There was a small fire at the launch pad after liftoff, which set off the launch pad's fire alarms. The fire was left to burn for a few hours before eventually dying down. SpaceX's support ship Bob returned to Port Canaveral with both fairing halves from the 03BM power set and an 8 launch, with the Estrange launch scrubbed. Signet Warhorse 1 brought a shortfall of gravitas back to port, empty-handed. Falcon 9 Booster 1090 finished its stay at the docks and was laid down on a transporter for its first post-flight refurbishment at Roberts Road. Dragon support ship Shannon departed Port Canaveral in the evening, making its way to the port of Long Beach in California, where Shannon isn't expected to arrive until January 30th. Doug returned to Port Canaveral on Tuesday with both fairing halves from the Starlink Group 12-2 mission. Signet Warhorse 3 returned to port on Christmas morning, towing home Just Read the Instructions and Booster 1080 after its 14th successful mission. On Thursday morning, Blue Origin's dockside crane removed a new glint leg section simulator from their landing ship Jack. Booster 1080 was offloaded from Just Read the Instructions and set down on the dockside stand for stowage using Bob's onboard crane. 2 fairing halves, starting with serial number 22, were offloaded from Doug, followed by fairing half number 165. Signet Warhorse 1 towed a shortfall of gravitas to sea, preparing to support the second launch attempt for the Estrange from One to Many mission. A couple of hours later, Doug headed out to sea to join a shortfall of gravitas in support of that same mission.